What's up everybody, Bandit here. So I was doing my monthly kind of really in-depth walk around of my truck, kind of just to inspect everything, checking the oil, checking the air filters and everything else, and I came across something that didn't make me very happy. So we're here under my Tacoma looking at the rear diff, and you may be able to see the remnants of a leak. So, like I said, I was going around just my routine inspections and came across this leak. Now, there's nothing getting on my garage floor, and we're not really seeing any physical signs of leak, but there is certainly a heavy seep going on. So, unfortunately, there is no recall for these vehicles. The recall was only across the SR, SR5, and TRD Sports. Any truck with an electronic locker, which also is fitted with a larger rear end here on these trucks, was not recalled. So no TRD Off-Roads or no TRD Pros were recalled. So I was able to take the truck to Stephen Toyota in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and they fixed it up right. Basically, they treated this truck like the SR5 and the TRD Sports that were recalled. So basically, they retorqued the screws around the differential and went ahead and checked it over with fluid. But the biggest thing, in my opinion, is go ahead and put record of that in the Toyota service system. So, I mean, obviously I could have retorqued the bolts and topped it off with fluid. That's not too big of a deal. But the key for me was to have it in their system, so if anything arose later on, I wouldn't be blamed for it. You know, I have the standard truck warranty, which is 3 year and 36,000 mile, but I also have an additional warranty, which takes my truck to 7 years and 100,000 miles. So I definitely want to make sure that warranty is not voided, and if anything goes wrong, I want to make sure Toyota knows about it. So we do have a few different news stories here to talk about this week, and we'll go ahead and start off with diesel news. So unless you've been living under a rock, you definitely know that both FCA, meaning Fiat Chrysler Dodge, that whole umbrella, as well as Volkswagen has had a lot of trouble with their diesels. You know, Volkswagen was involved in the really big, what they're calling the Dieselgate scandal, which involved a huge buyback of those Volkswagen vehicles. Now, supposedly there is a government-approved fix, meaning the EPA has signed off on it, and they agree with this fix for the vehicles. And what that will allow them to do is all the vehicles that have been bought back by Volkswagen, they can go ahead and resell those. Apparently that gets rid of the cheating for the emissions testing and everything else. So hopefully we'll be seeing more and more of those Volkswagen diesels back out on the roads. And a very similar thing happened with Fiat Chrysler this week. So with the 3-liter Eco Diesel there on the Grand Cherokees and the Ram 1500, a very similar thing was happening there, and the government kind of shut them down, meaning they couldn't sell anymore for a certain amount of time. They did just get those approved, so we will be able to see a resume in diesel sales for those companies there as well. Moving on to Ford news. So many of you all that, especially if you live here up and down the East Coast, I'm sure you see a lot of Ford police vehicles. The Interceptors is what they call them, both for the Explorer platform, the Taurus platform, and I believe there's a few Fusions, which are actually hybrids, but we won't get into that today. But with those Explorers, it sounds like there's a really serious issue going on with the carbon dioxide fumes. So Ford is saying that when police vehicles are drilled into to add the lights and other accessories that they need to be patrol interceptors, those holes in the body allow fumes to get in and have actually caused a few police officers to pass out behind the wheel and go careening off the road and sometimes get into accidents. So that's definitely not a good situation. I'm not sure how many of just the standard consumer Explorers are affected by this, but if you do drive one of those vehicles or know anyone that does, I would certainly recommend you telling them about it. So our last story comes this week actually from a new startup company called Bolinger. So Bolinger rolled out their B1 concept. They're calling it a very close to production prototype, basically. And what it is an EV four-wheel drive vehicle, meaning an electric vehicle that is four-wheel drive, and it looks very similar to a Jeep Wrangler or Land Rover Defender or anything like that. It does have a removable roof and everything else, and it also sports some really great ground clearance and other off-road capabilities. Now, what's interesting about this vehicle is since it is electric, there is no motor up front here under the hood. So what you can use this for is basically a toolbox. Now, it does have a back row of seats. It is, again, a very similar size to, say, a two-door Wrangler. Those seats can fold out of the way, and since this is hollow here, they actually have The console has a pass-through, and there's actually a pass-through all the way to the back of the vehicle, and they're saying that you can put, I believe it's 24 2x4s that are 8 feet length in the vehicle at one time, since you can use that entire pass-through. So a really interesting vehicle, and hopefully they can bring them to market. Now, again, it is just a startup company. It's not a real well-known company like, say, Tesla or you know, a branch of Toyota or Honda or anything like that. We don't know a whole lot about these people, but it sounds like they're hoping to start the vehicle pricing around $60,000, and I'm sure it'll go up from there as you get bigger battery packs and, say, more capability and everything else. But a really interesting idea, and I'm curious to know what you all think about that. It seems like every week we're coming out with more and more electric news. Some of you all are in favor of it, some of you certainly are not, but it is a really interesting time that we're living in, to say the least. So thank you all very much for watching. Have a fantastic week, everybody. We'll catch you next time.